capacities and have been sort of along the journey of Dynamics throughout the last 12 years or so now with VA. Let's head over to Brad.
Hi, Brad Law. So solution architect. Work with Brian on pretty much everything that we do with VA. So I've been here for 6 years and pretty much cover the same technologies and everything else that we're discussing today. And I'll be also helping out with the demo.
Great, thanks. And I know Aaron and Kadami and Lena are in various different traveling situations today, so they will just be sort of sitting in here to address any other questions that we might have. So that's our team. And Sophie, do you want to start with you?
Yeah. Hey, I'm Sophie. I'm the director of the Veteran Experience Services portfolio. You all, I think, work primarily in our Veterans Relationship Management product line and also some of the chatbot stuff that bleeds into digital experience a bit. So looking forward to learning more broadly about Microsoft's chat capabilities, because it's something that from a seamless experience perspective, we're thinking about and trying to figure out the best tooling to enable certain experiences. I'll pass it to Steve from my team.
Hey, I'm Steve Kovacs, United States Digital Service detailed to VA, but joining VA full-time later this month. I've been working on the digital products at VA since 2017, off and on, in addition to work at other agencies. And I'm helping Sophie think through product strategy at the VES portfolio level. I am also looking forward to learning about this product, because we have a number of workshops coming up about how we can elevate a lot of these processes up to the enterprise level and better plug our constituent products into the enterprise so we can amplify veteran outcomes. I'll pass to Brian.
Thank you, Steve.
Hey, good morning. Brian Malum. I'm the Deputy Director for Unified Communications. So we're the team that does all of the telephony, video, and contact center work, the underlying technology that actually runs the contact centers and delivers the phone calls. I have with me my architect, Clay Schmidt, and my division chief for voice and contact center solutions, Chris Keeley. And what we're hoping to do here is, what we're looking to do is find a solution that we can have a seamless integration with our Cisco Package Contact Center Enterprise solution and potentially a WebEx Cloud Contact Center. Happy to be here.
Thanks, Brian. All right. Any other intros? All right, great. So I guess Brian introduced his team as a whole, so we can go ahead and get started. So thank you guys for your time. We did put together today a session that we think meets much of what we wanted to essentially accomplish today. Get to my control here. So basically what we're just going to do is I'll cover off like on a quick history and overview of our sort of chat solution as it relates to, you know, the existing sort of footprint at VA. I know that the ask was, you know, we want to sort of take advantage of things that are already in place and how we sort of leverage that and not, you know, overlap with that. So the way that we built the live demonstration today, we'll sort of try to incorporate those things as much as possible. So it's not just a canned demo. We're trying to show you, you know, how this can essentially fit into some investments that have already been made. And then after we kind of wrap it up, we'll leave it open for Q&A. And I think that that's probably where Brian and you and your team will have the most sort of just kind of open discussion on what you're envisioning. I appreciate your email response to help us understand a little bit in terms of some of the things that you're laying out, but I think that's going to be something we definitely want to continue the conversation on, so we understand we're mapping up appropriately there. Okay, just real quickly, I wanted to walk through sort of our chat solution and how it sort of has a little bit of a specific history with VA. And I'm going to turn off my camera just to help with bandwidth as we get into the demo here. So as you may or may not know, the history of sort of dynamics at VA starts back in 2011, where we did this sort of like hosted model. We implemented the UDO contact center. We implemented a number of ones that followed beyond that. In 2017 or so, that got all transitioned from being this sort of hosted on-prem third-party data center to the SaaS and PaaS solutions that we know today as Dynamics 365. That essentially has continued to grow into a large portfolio of applications, which you can sort of see here, which have a number of integrations across sort of the VA landscape, everything from sort of MVI to Vista to a number of other types of system of record to support the workflows across this portfolio of applications. It's hard to sort of bucket sometimes, but you can sort of say that about 50, 60 or so % of these applications are sort of contact center or contact center related. If you went sort of broader to sort of customer service, I think you go even further up when you look at things like the telehealth management platform, which does telehealth scheduling, right? That's a form of service. There's a variety of customer service functions that are kind of covered within this portfolio of applications, which spans close to about 100,000 users across the VA, at least from a licensing perspective. When 2018 sort of came along, the VEO organization in particular, in conjunction with VRM and other groups like yours, Brian, started to talk more and more about adding multi-channel capabilities to the contact centers. Specifically, live chat became one of the initial sort of focuses. And up until that time, we, Microsoft, were primarily using a partner add-on sort of approach to being able to support those requirements. We had extended our platform to allow partners to plug into it quite a bit. But the challenge there was that many of the third-party partners were not sort of, investing in FedRAMP and whatnot. And, that message was sort of escalated up through Microsoft and ultimately ended up to the point where our executive leadership at the Satya Nadella level and just below, based on some of that feedback, decided to prioritize first-party capabilities in our platform, first-party live chat, first-party voice, first-party SMS, and other channels. And part of the agreement in doing.
Yeah, y'all have a problem if I interrupt you and ask a question sometimes, or would you like me to hold them till later?
I guess you could ask Brian. Sure, go right ahead.
When you're referring to a first party, that is a very VEO term from what I recall. Is that something specific to what you're working on with the Veterans Experience Office? First party?
When I say first party, I mean developed by Microsoft, not dependent on a partner to provide.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sure. So yeah, so native build or built within sort of Microsoft engineering. So yeah, sorry to not be clear there. So around that time frame, Microsoft set out to start to develop those capabilities, and it was decided that they would work hand in hand with the VEO team as sort of one of the primary use cases. So when we launched this, and ultimately in late 2018, many of the VA use cases were essentially utilized in the actual development of the product in Redmond. And in fact, I wanted to showcase something real quickly here. One of the outputs of that was the creation of this 1-minute video here that was used internally at Microsoft to sort of set a direction of what it was that we were going to develop. I'm going to have to stop sharing just a second because I don't think I shared with audio, so give me a second. There we go. So basically, this was developed and again presented to Satya Nadella and down through the business application engineering as the sort of direction of the omni-channel, multi-channel capabilities.
Kristen, a veteran, has a knee surgery.
Just turn this up, sorry.
Scheduled at the VA in a few weeks. In preparation, her doctors have asked her to track key health metrics using an app that's part of the VA telehealth program. To capture her heart rate, Kristen has purchased a new smartwatch and now wants to connect it with the app. After struggling to get it working, Kristen reaches out to the VA through Facebook Messenger for help. Upon starting the chat, she's greeted by a Power Virtual agent that is able to recognize the nature of her issue, but isn't able to resolve it because it has not been trained on the documentation for the new model of Kristen's watch. She's escalated to a human agent. Rasika, a customer service agent, is already working with a patient on the WhatsApp channel when she receives the notification of Kristen's message. She sees the low sentiment rating and uses a quick reply to greet Kristen while ramping up on the conversation details. Rasika hasn't been on the team very long, but a script guides her step by step through the conversation. After recognizing the model number of the watch, the system recommends a knowledge article detailing how to pair the app with the device. Rasika takes a look and shares some steps with Kristen, who tries it out and manages to set up the connection. She's relieved, and the sentiment score now goes positive. After Kristen's issue gets resolved, the agent opens a case for Kristen and the relevant information gets populated automatically. The next day, Rasika's supervisor Drew sees the top issue to watch is related to the Garmin Phoenix, indicating other users are hitting the same issue Kristen reported. Drilling down, he can see that the web and Facebook channels are having a negative impact on customer satisfaction. He decides to take action, adding this topic to the virtual health assistant. With one click, the topic and related trigger phrases are populated in Power Virtual Agent. Using the no-code editor, the topic is quickly added to the virtual health assistant and published so that other customers with the same issue can be helped without elevating to a human agent. Later that week, Sid, also a veteran preparing for surgery, is having the same difficulty pairing his smartwatch to the app that Kristen experienced. He reaches out through the live chat channel on the VA website and is similarly greeted by the Power Virtual Agent. This time, however, the virtual agent is familiar with this device and shares the knowledge article directly to Sid in the chat. He quickly reads the article and is able to get the watch paired to the app. He's pleasantly surprised by how easy it was to get his issue resolved and leaves positive feedback on the follow-up survey.
Great. So again, that was something that was set to be kind of a North Star inside of Microsoft as the engineering was essentially occurring, but many of those features and capabilities are available today, and we're going to be demonstrating them for you in our sort of customized VA demo. So let me get started into that now. Let me share this particular screen here. Okay, so again, with the focus of sort of leveraging things that are already invested in place, as many of you probably know, if you go to va.gov today and you go to the Contact Us page, you'll find a handful of ways to essentially get in touch with VA. And one of those is this relatively new option for Chatbot. And this chatbot, which is built by the digital services team, is essentially available. It's still technically in beta, but there's been a lot of ongoing development by Luciana's team, we actually support that every week. We have office hours and answer questions that they have. So the approach that they've taken here is they've embedded the Power Virtual Agent bot here into a customized sort of frame inside of va.gov, and it would allow anyone to come in and ask things like, what is PACT Act? And I see, Brian, your hand is up.
Was the primary focus of this one to see the bot itself, or was this more about seeing a chat service under like omni-channel kind of thing?
Primary focus of this portion of the demo, or of this feature on va.gov?
Oh, I was thinking that we were looking at how we were going to have an enterprise chat platform, and we were looking at different ways of doing it here in VA. And I know that there's a bot that may be in production today, but that's not what I'm familiar with. Sophie, I don't know if you can weigh in on that one, but I didn't know if we're looking at a chatbot sort of deal, or if we're looking at more of a getting questions that maybe need human interaction to a human that are basically working in the contact center.
But I think they're showing us the array of chat capabilities they have. So in that video, for example, it was showing live agent. This is just showing chatbot. Is it Brian from Microsoft? Is that tracking?
Correct. So because Sophie, your ask was to sort of, demonstrate it in the context of how we can use what's already in place. It's very common that when you implement live chat, that you start with a bot as the sort of the initial greeting of that live chat, so that you get deflection, more easier things can be answered by the bot before having to escalate to the live agent. So what I'm sort of starting with here is what's already in place in terms of investments that VA has made in sort of quote unquote production. And then we're going to transition into how this can escalate to the live agent.
Does that help, Brian Mellon?
Yeah, it helps understand that. Yep.
Okay. Cool.
Thanks. Okay, so I'm sort of, by the way, taking kind of the role of a veteran. Obviously, now we actually use the persona Ted Bailey when we do a lot of these different demos. So Ted Bailey would essentially be landing here, asking the bot various questions. Maybe we want to ask something like, how can I find a grave site? And this bot essentially will recognize that I've sort of asked for a particular topic. Do I want to switch this topic to burials? I'll say yes. And it gives me a variety of sort of resources that I can maybe go to get a specific answer, like the locator page, which has been presented here. Another interesting thing about what's been implemented over time here is that I can ask questions like, what is the status of my appeal? Status. And that's a very specific question to me. It's related to my specific information and PII. So it says, in order for me to answer this, I would have to have you sign in. And this bot has already essentially been integrated into and using, I shouldn't say this bot, but this chat experience is already integrated in to support both authenticated and non-authenticated chat scenarios. So if I go back now to the chat and sort of start over, just to cancel out of that, and I say, talk to an agent, please. This would be essentially the launching point now from dealing with the virtual agent to getting to a live agent, right? And currently today in the production, it says that this chatbot cannot yet connect you to a support agent. We're working on that feature, but thank you for your patience. So what we're going to do from here is sort of transition over to our demo environment, which we've kind of just quickly mocked up to look the same, and show how escalation to a live agent may occur. So it's a choice of VA because the chat can be essentially placed anywhere. It can be placed on web pages as it is here. It could be put in your mobile apps. It can be put really anywhere that VA already has in place that wants to expose that chat experience. So you saw in the video, social media, if you even wanted to do that there. What we're going to do for the purposes of this demo is show it in probably a little bit more of a traditional mechanism, which is the floating widget down here on the right, which would pop up, which gives you sort of the more flexibility to kind of pop up different widgets across the landscape of where you might want to encourage maybe more of a chat interaction. So in this case, the same thing that was coming up in the sort of embedded window comes up here, and I can ask, what is act. And so, like I said, we're kind of taking a little bit more of a approach here that's probably seen a little bit more across the web. For example, if I go over to TrueGreen's website here, you'll notice that they have the little widget floating here with sort of a customized design. And in the case of their implementation of chat, they also start with a virtual agent, which will prompt and say, more of a button driven or a navigation element here to get to some questions that you might have, but also then having the ability to essentially, escalate to a live agent if you would like, which is what we're going to show here. Another example being the Dolphins tickets. They put in their implementation where They actually kind of put more of a question here, have questions, click here to chat, and then they essentially take you to a separate page where the chat occurs, and they're starting with a pre-chat survey. So you have the ability to build these pre-chat surveys into the chat experience. So when you are going to start to look for that agent to work with, they will know what your name is and email if you're not essentially authenticating. You could have drop-down boxes that represent things like, what are you contacting us about, so that it can be essentially routed in the correct routing and queues. So kind of coming back over here to our sort of demo environment where we're about to initiate a live chat. I'll sort of start out and say back here. So I already asked what's PACT Act, and I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, that answered my question. And then I'll say, yep, that answered my question. So I'll give you a 5. We just put in a little survey there. And then I'm going to say, my friend says I may have a presumptive condition. All right. And so it gives me some information that I can choose against, and then says, do you still think that you have this condition? And I'm going to say yes. And that's going to be essentially the trigger now to transfer to a live agent. Okay. So while that's essentially going to get me in touch with the live agent, let me switch back over here to sharing my slides, and we'll do the live agent here in just a second. That's the slide. Here we go. Okay, so what we're essentially seeing here is that, Ted is interacting from a chat perspective. Again, we're using the browser here. It could be on that native mobile device. Power Virtual Agent gives you the ability to start that chat from anywhere that you essentially want to embed it, like we saw embedded in the VA chatbot, the va.gov page. These are actual screenshots from Digital Services bot, where you essentially are defining trigger criteria. You are then having the conditional logic. This is all built through low code, no code. It's incorporating services from Azure. It's incorporating integrations into things like the appeal system to get that status of appeal. But when we get to the point of having to transfer to an agent, once that's configured, that's just a step that you can drop into the conversation. And then essentially the escalation will occur, and that chat notification happens at the appropriate agent who is both available, who has the appropriate skills, and it has been identified that this particular topic should be routed to that agent. We've been focused primarily on just sort of a web-based so far, but we have a variety of channels that are able to be utilized. So if you wanted to be on just a pure sort of text SMS message channel, if you wanted to use WhatsApp or, like I said, social media. But you can also have the ability to escalate this chat, which is text-based typing chat, to a voice and video with just a single click, so that if you want to have a use case or scenario where you move to sort of a voice video over voice IP, voice over IP, that's enabled, and we'll show that in the demo.
Hey Brian, what if that transfer right there
Yep.
actually left the application and went to an existing on-prem cloud-hosted contact center, capable of doing that? So like an API call for stateful information into a separate contact center.
So into a separate contact center, meaning specifically what?
WebEx Contact Center Enterprise, PCC,
So a different
yeah.
a different vendor is what you're saying.
Correct.
Gotcha. Yeah. So one of the reasons that, and I draw this out on this slide for this specifically, you'll notice that Power Virtual Agent and Customer Service Omnichannel are two distinct offerings that are integrated. But Power Virtual Agent is meant to be standalone, just like the VA is using it today as a standalone bot without escalation. But the ability to escalate to other contact centers is configurable. You can, or I should say, customizable in that you can hand off to other systems. Now, will it be as sort of robust in terms of the amount of data that's coming across? No, but it does package that up and put it into an API that can be sent to another system.
Well, and I'm not saying we leave Microsoft Dynamics from that perspective. I'm just saying the actual voice channel gets handled through, a skilled agent on that contact center platform, if you will. But
Gotcha.
but Microsoft Dynamics would still be the so you could either take like Finesse and embed Microsoft Dynamics in it, or you could probably work the other way around. I am very interested in how the email and chat perspective of Microsoft Dynamics would work from coming in from those various threads and channels like you demonstrated.
Yeah.
But I'm also interested in maintaining continuity through a contact center where we've already centralized reporting and those kind of things, so we can bring all that together.
Exactly. And a lot of that research and whatnot was done. You may or may not know, I didn't really cover it in the history, but the implementation of this into one of the Dynamics contact centers, UDO, was about 60 or 70% of the way complete until the contact center themselves said, they wanted to hold back because they didn't have time to train the agents and whatnot. So I think a lot of that research and sort of planning was done at one point, but there was more that needed to be done from sort of the enterprise element of sort of handing off different channels for sure.
Yeah, and for me, those channels are best handled in the cloud, best handled by the vendor who front ends that CRM package, and then as long as we can ensure that there can be some kind of API call into the contact center to check for stateful information and find a skilled agent and then transfer that to call to them from a voice or video perspective. Video is still debatable, but from a voice perspective, that's I know that's one of the things that I'm exploring heavily.
Yeah, and there's definitely, in all transparency, we're going to need to explore some of that together, because
Great. Yeah, that'd be fun.
the options that we want to take advantage of are, there's so many different paths to take, and then you bring in, third parties like Bucher and Suter, which the VA uses and is implementing on one of the Dynamics applications, and they bring something to the table from a Cisco integration perspective. So we certainly want to explore that with you.
Well, and kick all this off with Google Dialogflow and
right.
So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm there with you on that one. Yeah.
Right. Great insight. Thank you. Okay, so just kind of coming back to the flow now. So we got to the end here on my chat scenario as Ted Bailey, and I basically said, yeah, I want to talk with a live agent or continue to chat with a live agent. So, and I have a bunch of features here that are kind of interesting. I can upload actual files if I want to as part of that. We have an upload file option. Again, configurable. You can turn this off because it can create some PII type issues, but you also have the ability to download the transcript or email the transcript as well, just, native features out of the box. But with that, we've now invoked an agent, so it's gone through the routing, and our agent should be getting notified that there's someone ready to essentially continue this conversation. So with that, Brad, I'm going to say go ahead and take over sharing as you sort of illustrate the role of the agent. And you're on mute if you're talking.
All right, thanks, Brian. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to obviously play the role of the agent. So Brian's kind of gone through, the veteran side of things. I'm going to be within VA in the call center and play that role of the agent. I might start my day. We've got a lot of different enablements. I mean, with the product itself, the customer is the veteran customer is the agent, and the customer is also the supervisor of those agents, and the team leads. Those are all people that are considered within our product. Something like this is just an ongoing dashboard of kind of ongoing live conversations that may be occurring. This is just one of the various reports that kind of come out of box as well. And this would give you things, the ability to do things like assign. If I wanted to assign as a supervisor, assign this to somebody else on the team. If I wanted to actually monitor the chat, I can actually do that as well. Click here, click monitor, and actually bring me the chat. And no one even knows I'm there as a supervisor. All right. Up here to the top right, now this is that chat request that Brian specifically did from the website. Here I can see I have a chat request from Ted Bailey. The escalation is obviously from a bot, and it's going to continue to give me a countdown. So the whole time Brian was showing that countdown continued. Now, I'm the only agent logged in right now. But again, to Brian's point in the beginning, that's where the routing can come into play as well. So we've got skill-based routing and availability. So right now I'm set as being busy, okay, and that's my presence. But I'm the only agent, so I'm the only agent.
Hey, Brad, I don't want to interrupt, but unless it's me, your voice has been slowly trailing out. And
Yeah,
getting a little bit more
same here.
choppy. Yeah. You started out fine with just a little bit of something, and then it's been trailing out.
Make sure I'm speaking facing directly to my microphone here. All right. We'll try from there. I'm not sure what else I can do at this point. I do have the correct microphone set up, so I'm not quite sure what that is. Is that any better now?
I think if you're talking loud like that, it should be okay unless it fades out again.
I have no problem with volume, so I'll turn it up a little bit then.
All right.
All right. So again, so back to it. This is the chat widget. I can see that this has also been escalated from a bot. Now that wait time is going to continue to count down. Like eventually here, it's going to get to 0. It's going to look for somebody who will actually accept the chat. I, again, am the only agent that's available or actually in the system right now. If I were set to busy, this wouldn't have came to me at all. Or if I was set to, kind of, I was still wrapping up another call or whatever the case is. What I'm going to go ahead and do for it disappears is that accept. That's going to bring me into the conversation. Okay. Now,
I still can't really hear.
the only thing I could probably do.
It almost sounds like his noise canceling is interfering or something. That's what it
Right.
sounds like.
Brad, can you not hear us? Because we lost you again. I don't know if maybe you need to connect back in or something on voice, but I know we'll lose your screen share if you do, or dial in on your cell.
All right, just a minute. All right, can you guys hear me at all?
It's similar to what it was.
Okay. All right.
It's that jittery sound
Mhm.
that you have when you're missing packets. So it may be audio cancellation or something wrong with your connection.
I don't have anything else going on in here.
Switch to
Oh,
another
there you
speaker.
go. Now we
Okay.
got you, 100%.
Luckily, my little hockey puck speaker was down here, so it must be something with my camera mic then. All right. Okay. So normally, okay. So where I'm at now is obviously I can see a few things that are kind of going on here. Now we also have the ability to we want to verify who this person is, so we would perform some type of a MVI search. We've got the ability to integrate with some of the existing systems right here in the screen as well. This is just more or less a mock-up, obviously coming from our development environment. We first would verify that we know who this person is. Okay, that's Ted Bailey. Okay, and then we can start that conversation. Now, the first thing I would want to do from here is just kind of take a brief look and see kind of the conversation that Ted has had. Now, this is that entire conversation that Ted was having with the bot itself. I can see that he's asked a few questions here. And the bot's, obviously that could be rather lengthy, but the bot is actually, because we know what topic he fell into, can give me kind of a summary. And this is coming from the bot, this orange screen, that the veteran believes that they have another presumptive condition would like to discuss. Okay. So from here, what I'll do is I'll continue that conversation. We mentioned the ability to do quick replies. I'll start out with introducing myself to Brian or Ted, and we'll go ahead and start with that /Q. And this is just going to search the system. I'll go ahead and send that over to veteran, hello, you're chatting with Bradley. It can populate that for me as well. And then we'll just kind of have to wait for the veteran to respond. Now, while we're doing that, I can continue just to kind of review the chat conversation. All right, and I can see we've got a hello coming in. All right, and he has a direct question on what is a presumptive condition. Now, again, I've actually configured, if you've got times like when the PACT Act was actually delivered, you can spin up things really quick on these quick replies. So I already had set one up in regards to that. Okay, so again, trying to save that veteran time, if I can spell it there. All right. Presumptive. Okay, and I could search for that if I spelled it correctly. All right, I keep messing it up. All right, and there we go. I can pick that one right there, and it's basically just a little bit of text. It's going to give an explanation of what that presumptive condition is. I'll send that over to the veteran. Okay. Now we see here, now we started out the conversation with a neutral sentiment. Okay. Now, just simply because of the text that the veterans put in here, typically it's going to be, I'm a bit frustrated. We can see that it actually has changed to a slightly negative, okay? And that's just the AI actually reading into the conversation using text analytics effectively on the AI side of things to just understand kind of what the words that are being said and how we actually have that and we translate that over to a sentiment. All right, so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'm a bit frustrated. Okay, we know that Ted is frustrated. And what I can do is I'll send a message back to him and say, sure. Pop that in there and send that back over to Ted. I can even do a video chat if you like. Okay, Ted's interested in that. Sounds like it would be great. I'll come back up here to the menu. Now, we actually have the ability within the product, too, to do both voice calls and video calls. I'm going to go ahead and kick off a video call. What this is going to do, you won't see, obviously, Ted's side of things, but he'll be prompted with a message that will allow me to do a video chat. We'll go ahead and click that. I'm going to mute there. Let's see here. And right now, Ted's going to be receiving a message that I'm trying to initiate that video chat. And let me mute that so we don't get that echo. All right. And we can continue the conversation from here. Okay. Now, this is something, obviously, that's just using our infrastructure, using that tight integration. Obviously, we've got our video and everything else, but that's all just something. There's nothing. All I had to do to get that enabled is really just allow it within this particular chat. So pretty straightforward. Now, we would have concluded that video conversation. Okay, we may still be going. I can see that Ted's continuing to send messages over to me in chat, except he decided he was going to go ahead and send that social security number over. And I can see that we can enable that masking. So it's going to prevent that social security number from even getting to me as an agent. Again, that's something you can have or not have. You can control what is actually masked and what is not, what's hidden from there. All right. All right. So any questions on that before we move over to maybe just explain a little bit more about kind of the chat and some of the features that we have within chat and some of that agent experience? All right. So
go ahead. I am, I know that we were talking about Booker and Suter earlier, but I am interested in seeing how an integrated solution looks, especially as you would want to extend a call, to our existing environment, from the chatbot, especially the one that we have in place today.
Okay, so maybe we can get a little information and maybe reach out to you, Brian. We can just see exactly what that will look like. What I don't know personally what that is. I know what Bucher and Suter is, but I don't know exactly what that architecture looks like that you want to implement. And we can obviously have another conversation about that. Does that work?
Sure. One of the biggest problems that we face today is that the chatbot was put in place at the beginning of the pandemic, and it's been developed since. But one of the things it cannot do is it cannot take that person that's on the end of that chat and trying to figure out what their answers are and connect to a human. And that's something that Sophie and I had talked about before, and making sure we kind of solve that one. And so we don't have to work this one out today because that's something that Clay needs to work on. but I wanted you all to know, I just wanted you to know that that's a very hot topic right now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Fair enough.
Mhm.
All right. So any other questions? I just want to go ahead and give you guys a little bit of review of just some of the features associated with the chat within the product and some of that agent experience. Just a little bit more here. Anything else? Okay. All right. Now from here, obviously, we have a lot of features here. So I'll kind of start and kind of move through the chat window. We've already covered kind of that experience in the transcripts. Now, because I've tagged this to be Ted Bailey within the system, it's going to keep this entire chat record and associate back to that Ted Bailey veteran record as well. Some of the other things that I can do, I've obviously got the ability to, we've already talked about sentiment, we've already talked about video and voice, but we've also got the ability to send attachments back over to the public-facing website as well in that chat widget. Here, what this does is this is the quick replies again. So I've got the ability to do kind of canned ones, and these are configurable by with permissions. If you have the administrative rights to do that, you can do that as well. And then over here on the right side, we even have the ability for an agent to have their own personal, if that's something you'd like, and that can be turned off or on. I don't have any in here today right now. I've also got the ability to do a consultation, okay? Obviously, because of the way that we can route things, we've got queuing, okay, and we've got skills-based routing. The skills-based routing can move things into specific queues. This is just a list of queues that we have in the system. Say we had one here for benefits. If I wanted to send this chat over and transfer over to the benefits queue, it could be picked up by another agent supporting the benefits queue. If I wanted to, say, bring my supervisor in, I don't have anything else logged in right now, but I could search and find, say, Aaron Barth is my supervisor. I want to pull him into the conversation. And it's really nice what you can do with that as well. I can bring Aaron directly into the conversation, and he can actually converse with the veteran. All right, that's one option. Or if I just need to go back and forth without the veteran seeing the communication, I can chat directly with Aaron as well. And we can, and that chat can be protected from the veteran not seeing that chat. So I can have a one-on-one with Aaron, or I can even bring Aaron into the conversation and help out, or I can just transfer the call over to Aaron as well. And there's some of the functions here too. That's actually directly transferring over to a queue, or I could, if I had another agent here, I could transfer over to another agent.
So quick question. This is all great. I'm really actually enjoying seeing this. The underlying telephony engine within the contact center space that you're showing here is that Microsoft Teams, and does that kind of play into our rollout and the licensing that we have?
So from a telephony perspective, we continue to operate in the way that we have for 10 years, which is the telephony is provided by, Brian's team, Cisco or whatever the technology was. I think we've worked with multiple along the way. We as a company, Microsoft, also have a service in Azure known as Azure Communication Services, or ACS, which is like Amazon is getting into sort of the more of the telephony space, as are we with that. So what you start to see with our contact center is that you're not required to use our, same word, first party voice, in this case, ACS, but it is an option if you want to choose that and have sort of an all encompassed contact center. But we will always continue that to function in a way in which if you want to use your provided telephony, we will just continue to provide the interfaces to integrate with that.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
But the part about you mentioning Teams, which is interesting, is the engine of Teams. If you were to think of Teams as a platform and draw out the communication engine, which is both an engine of chat, it's an engine of voice, it's an engine of many different things. That is the same engine that is driving all of this sort of in the plumbing of our cloud, if you will, right? So we are leveraging the scalability and the technology of that, but sort of repurposing it, or extending it's probably a better word, for the purposes of these contact center use cases. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. What about provisioning agents? Does that come from the same pool as enterprise licensed, say, MS Teams users, or is there a separate database, separate,
Yeah, so
say, Active
good,
Directory integration?
good question. So when I say we're using the engine, that's purely technology. It's not licensing. So if you were to look at sort of what we've demonstrated so far and talk about licensing at a high level, you would essentially be looking at the licensing of the bot itself, which you actually pay for by a bot conversation, like monthly bot conversations, like how many times the bot talks with a customer. That's one sort of component of the licensing. Then as you escalate over to the sort of live agent, that is a per user license for each of the agents who are leveraging. It's a SaaS application, right? So you don't need any infrastructure, database, VMs or anything like that. It's all sort of SaaS and per user license cost.
Gotcha. And then one last question.
Mhm.
I think I know the answer to this, but
Okay.
strictly from the voice channel
Yeah.
perspective,
Mhm.
if we want to front end it with some sort of AI-driven IVR, natural
Mhm.
speech language type
Yeah.
application, is there something that you guys offer that does that, and if so, awesome. And then if
Yeah.
not, obviously, let's say we were going to front end with Dialogflow or CCAI, is that is that something you guys would integrate with as well?
So I'm going to give you the short answer, and if Aaron, you want to come in over top since this gets more into your specialty, please do. But yes, Power Virtual Agent, which we've only talked about in the case of this this demo being text-based sort of chat and routing. It is also expanding more and more to be a voice enabled. So you can essentially start to do, intent driven, voice driven decision criteria scenarios, much like an IVR, right? So have voice enabled IVR navigation that works directly with your telephony, vendor of choice. So that's an area you may or may not be aware of. Nuance and some of the things that they have done in the space, right? So we acquired Nuance, right? Multi-billion-dollar acquisition. We don't plan to just roll out Nuance and put a new branded name of Microsoft on top of Nuance. We've brought the technology in-house and we're using it to expand our overall capabilities around advanced contact centers, fraud detection, et cetera. So that's kind of in process and a roadmap that's rolling out. And we've been sort of communicating that a bit to digital services and things as the information has become available. Aaron, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, just one add-on is related to the Power Virtual Agent has the capability on the canvas to, based on the channel, to provide your own SSML or sort of markup or how you want the response to be. So you could have a essentially the same bot has both a text sort of path, and if the channel happens to be voice, then respond this way, not sending like KBs of information and tables and adaptive cards, really more tailored towards the voice conversation.
Okay. And then going back multiple slides ago, I did a screenshot of your Microsoft Dynamics 365 business application portfolio, and the very bottom was VA system of record integrations. Those are all current and existing API integrations that you have through Dynamics. Is that correct?
Correct, and not probably a complete list.
Okay. So that wheel essentially doesn't need to be recreated. It's just the front end coming into the system is what we're talking about for most of these apps. So okay.
Correct. And those back end integrations are all managed formally under Sophie's portfolio in a API management system known as VEIS. And so it's scalable, it's monitored, it's supports millions of transactions and has for years.
Got it. Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure. All right, Brad, looks like we have about 9 minutes left. Did you want to just kind of wrap up on anything left that you wanted to show here on the agent experience?
Yeah, just maybe a couple minutes, and then I'll wrap it up so we can save time for more questions, if that's okay. All right, so one thing I did mention is obviously this is just one chat conversation I was having with Ted, but I can have the ability to obviously have multi-chat. So if I've got, you can control how many different persons, one agent can actually converse with. I can bring other systems in here. I've got the Salesforce tab. I actually attempted to get Salesforce integrated to it, but they're restricting it being shown in iframe. I called Salesforce. They couldn't tell me how. They have an option to enable it, but they couldn't tell me how to do it, and I'd open a ticket up. But I was hoping to be able to show you how that would work as well. Over here on the far right, we've got the ability to do some of our searching that'll search the entire system. Here, this is agent script. So we've got the ability to handle agent scripts as well. Use macro to identify the customer. There's macros. So if I wanted to have this automatically cook off something and automatically do the MVI search, I could do that and just bring back the results. And then just other things that you can do along the way in terms of scripting. If I were to switch over to the PACT script, I can do that. Explaining eligibility, and this could be some of the critical things you would expect to see in a normal call center. Bouncing back over here, this would be knowledge search. There's 2 levels of knowledge search. This level is more of a pattern matching, and it's searching the word burn pit just based off of what came in through the chat itself. And from here, if I wanted to use, this is using our knowledge base technology as well. I can email that out. But we've also got the ability to integrate that and replace that with eGain, which I know VA is using currently today. It would work in a very similar way as well. So just to save a little time here, I think that kind of just wraps out what I wanted to show you from the agent experience. And again, we've just taken that full conversation from that bot, that chat experience, attempting for self-service. That did not go the way it wanted to. The veteran wanted to speak to a live agent. We got him on video, and then we transferred that over to the agent, and we showed the agent experience and talked a little bit about the supervisor experiences with it, and actually handling that call and that first call resolution that we want to have in a call center. So Brian, I'll turn it back over to you, and I see you've taken over sharing for the summary.
Great, thanks, Brad. Yeah, so hopefully, we obviously couldn't show everything for you guys, but I know this is very much a session focused on what we can do with live chat today. So here's an attempt to kind of bring together, a variety of sort of features that we have to support sort of an enterprise live chat solution. It of course incorporates, as we said, the ability to have the Power Virtual Agent that exists today to sort of escalate up to that live agent. What this screen sort of shows on the left here is that, again, Power Virtual Agent isn't just about escalating to dynamics. You can surface that chat, that bot, virtual agent experience in a variety of interfaces, custom websites, mobile applications, social media, and if you choose, you have the option to escalate over. And dynamics on the right-hand side is showing you sort of, to configure those channels is literally just, configuration, not coding APIs in order to make that happen. So with that, let's go ahead and open it up for any other questions.
Well,
I'm not sure. I was just saying.
I don't know if 5 minutes is enough. How about a follow-on meeting
Sure.
to have some discussions? I'm interested in how calls get into the system.
Well, I thought,
Obviously,
and I apologize if we didn't cover calls, but I thought the context of this demo was chat.
I'm
It
sure
was.
it is. I'm just kind of expanding.
Oh, okay.
It. Yeah.
All right, fair
Yeah.
enough. Yeah, I just didn't want to leave something out that you were expected. We tried to build it to specifically focus on sort of the chat capabilities, but we are more than happy. And in fact, the other side of this as well is, the implementation that's occurring right now for the Vet Home solution, that will be integrated with Cisco. That's implementing Bucher and Suter. I think they're go live. I don't know if it's going to include that integration yet or not, but it is on the roadmap to get that in place. So you can sort of also see it firsthand inside of the VA as well, through that development that's happening right now.
Yeah. Like here's one of the problems that I'm trying to solve.
Sure.
So to help, Sophie and Luciana out, from their team's perspectives.
Mhm.
So the VA, one of the things that we've done poorly over the decades is we stand up a an initiative, and
Mhm.
and we form a team around that initiative, and then that
Mhm.
team goes, man, we got to get a toll-free number, and hey, let's
Mhm.
stand up a contact center,
Mhm.
and next thing you know, you got 800 toll-free numbers, and the veterans as confused as it gets, right? So about 5 secretaries ago, the charge was to to try to get to a single number for the VA. So
Yep.
our team, specifically the voice team, has been forward leaning and on the bleeding edge of technology for decades right now,
Mhm.
trying
Mhm.
to consolidate telephony and make up for um, what was the best solution at the time. The
Mhm.
people that came before us did a really good job, but trying to tidy that up a little bit, and
Yeah.
we're just about there. So now technology is in a spot where that request 5 secretaries ago actually looks like you could start addressing that. So let's just say some kind of interactive AI IVR,
Mhm.
right? That so we can have 200 different contact centers for all these initiatives that people do, and and that interactive IVR can get it to the right spot, and that can be an on-prem solution, that can be a Cisco solution, it could be a pure Microsoft solution, it could be many. It's just the handoff, but the handoff has to include, let's say initially, the interactive IVR gets you to a speech bot or a
Yeah.
chat bot, and
Absolutely.
then that chat bot from there they want to actually like, hey, I'm done with chatbot. I want to speak to a human.
Yep.
And so now that escalation has to come into whatever contact center, and then one of the challenges is getting the context from that.
Mhm.
And and so that's the voice side of the house. But let's say something comes in to a bot from say WhatsApp or Facebook,
Yep.
and then they say I want to chat with a human,
Mhm.
and then my options are handle that within the CRM package or handle that natively within the contact center. Well, for a given period of time, the contact center is going to be, with 12,000 agents, you can't just upend a contact center and put it into a cloud. So you're going to have an element of that on prem, and you're going to have an element of that, migrating to the cloud. So that escalation, if I want to handle that within the contact center, then
Mhm.
then I got to stand up an on-prem solution, which not really interested in anymore, looking at divesting from that as much as possible,
Okay.
or hand off to whatever flavor of platform that we have that's still out there that we're trying to get to, is consolidated as much as possible. So for me, it's very uh, I'm really entertaining the thought of just letting the CRM package handle that,
Mhm.
but then you get into the debate of, which CRM package and all that, and that's not my area of concern as far as that selection. It's more, how does it integrate, and how does it integrate seamlessly into the contact center, and how do you take that interactive IVR that could potentially go to multiple CRM packages and multiple contact centers, and create, from a telephony and handoff perspective,
Mhm.
that technical roadmap or that technical journey that allows that veteran to have that seamless customer journey that Sophia and her team are looking to get. So
Yeah.
um, I'm real interested in seeing more about your solution and what it can provide natively, and then how what the integration points are at that point. I really liked what I saw today from the chat and SMS portion of it. So
Gotcha. Appreciate the
yeah,
feedback, Clay. I know we're
yeah,
over time, but I wanted to mention one thing real quickly. I'm sharing my screen here. So, as you may or may not know, in about a month, we have a session up in Redmond known as an EBC. One of the groups I have coming to speak at that, they're known as One Voice here in Microsoft. It's an internal organization that has been on the journey to basically do the same exact thing that VA has been doing. It's unifying our disparate groups here within Microsoft from a unified call center. They use the same term of creating a single front door. They've been they started by implementing NLU based sort of voice routing and have gone more to an intent based routing. But the thing that I think makes it interesting to hear from them is they don't just only choose Microsoft technologies, right? There's Avaya in the mix, there's Cisco in the mix, there's a variety of technologies, and they can make those decisions based on what's best to support the requirements. And of course, they have a preference to go Microsoft whenever possible, but it isn't always the case. So, 70 million calls per year. So I have them speaking. I can always do a one-off session if for those that aren't making that, but I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned from what the journey this group's been on for the last 5 years, and what they can talk about aligning to what the VA is doing.
Yeah, that'd be great. Because I mean, I think our contact centers that we've been migrating right now, and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm hearing up to 300,000 calls within a 24-hour period, and we're not even 50% migrated. So it's the what's hitting the system is pretty huge, and being able to, not even hit a home run, but just 6% of calls handled by an AI bot, freeing up agents to be able to take those calls that aren't handled by AI bots. Those kind of things will definitely pay dividends in the future.
Absolutely. And that's where we're heavily invested with, the voice IVRs and essentially, virtual agents becoming voice enabled is really, our motion. And that was the acquisition of Nuance, was to inject, that and really accelerate that. So would love for you guys to hear from our group that's doing that.
Yeah, that would be great. I'd love that. And then, obviously one of my goals is leveraging, the existing life cycle. So living in that hybrid environment, is something that we're keenly aware of. It does add, quite a bit of complexity. And, it's interesting because, there's a couple philosophies you can take, an enterprise approach where you go with a single vendor, or you can go with a best of approach. And,
right.
and I think I've, in my career, I've done a little bit of both. And have lessons learned from both, but
sure.
In this type of environment, as large as we are, and as difficult as it is to, iceberg right rudder the ship, that living in that hybrid environment is just it's just a reality.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. I think you're absolutely right, and we're a player in that hybrid, but we also try to do our best to make sure that we offer the enterprise, solutions as well, so.
Yeah. And right now is a pivotal moment for us because we are really looking at, transitioning a lot of our services to the cloud, and what that looks like, and what the redundancies are, and what the uptime is. And so we have this moment in time to do this research and figure it out, and hopefully come up with a clear direction and path forward for that migration.
Well, I think a briefing on our sort of, voice enabled bot technologies and telephony integrations is certainly in order. If I don't know if you were planning on making the trip to Redmond, Clay, but I can certainly facilitate for you and Brian and anybody else that would be interested in hearing that roadmap.
Yeah, Brian. So Clay and I are about to talk about that. We're actually eating into the meeting he and I are going to have about that very topic.
Okay.
So just for full disclosure, that we are on this kind of journey to just at least take a look at what our options are, with our eyes wide open. And yes, this opportunity was presented to me, I think it was like late last week, about an opportunity to go up to Redmond for a day or two. And meet with Microsoft and see what y'all had. But like I said, with everything that is operational, a lot of the workload, it became a conversation that I needed to have with the rest of the team. For me, it's a drive because I live, 3 hours south of Redmond.
Ah, right. Okay.
But Clay, on the other hand, lives in McCall, Idaho. So even though he's relatively close, it's like a 3 hour drive plus a 1 hour flight plus, So
right, right.
So it's
Okay.
a little less convenient for Clay, but
Understood.
I think it would be time well spent personally.
Mhm.
But we are kind of trying to look at this stuff with eyes wide open because, like Clay said, now this is a pivotal time for VA
Sure.
and how we do these things because it's the right thing to do. It's just
Mhm.
that as you know, you have competitors that are all vying for the same thing,
Absolutely.
and we want to do right by the taxpayers and the veterans we serve, and yeah, so we just need to become a little bit more educated, but it's just really hard to extract ourselves from
Yeah.
the implementation and operation of our existing systems to be able to
Understood.
do that effectively. So
Well, Brian, if you and Clay and anyone else, can't make the trip, so we have 2 days, right? The first day is going to be very sort of CRM centric, right? But with elements of omni-channel as well. Second day, first half will be more sort of power platform, low code, no code, so stuff that might be not as applicable to you. But that afternoon session on the second day is when I have One Voice teed up, that internal team that I think we're going to get the most out of. It's the real world story and lessons learned. Happy to try to make a virtual dial-in option for you guys to at least hear that story, if nothing else.
did you already send the agenda to Sophie?
We have been crafting it more and more as we get
Okay.
feedback and whatever. So I don't know, Sophie, she's not on anymore, if she has
Yeah.
the updated version, but I will be able to send that to her, right here after if she'd like.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for the time, especially the extra 8 minutes. Hope you found the time useful and look forward to connecting again in the future here.
All right,
Yep,
have a
that
good
was
day.
great. Thanks, Brian.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep.
Take care, guys.
Take care.